Good morning, everyone. How are you doing this morning? Good? I just want to thank Steve for his really good work in organizing this whole conference. He deserves a hand. Give him a hand. Even having to read that disclaimer every day is a lot of work. So, that being said, I'm going to start with a little prayer. Let me get myself where I get. Which is about merging the heavens and earth, which is really, really what this whole thing is about. Do this. Here we go. So, the issue is ultimately, it's not about live foods. It's really about having a working brain. Okay? And that's not a small thing in today's world. There's so much going on that is affecting our mind, affecting our body. And the live food is one of the, let's say, major defense systems that keeps everything working as optimally as possible. Because if we can't think, it's hard to evolve spiritually. The mind isn't working. Wisdom can't really happen. Wisdom is needed to lead a more full, conscious life. And we can see what's going on in the world today. People are losing it in many ways. There's so many factors affecting people's minds, including obviously the GMO food and the junk food and the processed food and the 5G. Well, we're not at 5G yet, but 4G. Lots of forces, and the live food is an antidote to a certain level. Because without that, you can't be creative, you can't have art, you don't have strength. It's really hard to lead your life. So that's key. So I just did the yoga class, but with the live food, what I've noticed, vegan, plant source only, is with chronological age, I'm actually almost 76, with chronological age, you can get stronger, more flexible. When I was captain of an undefeated college football team in a National Football Hall of Fame, at age 20, 21, I could do 70 push-ups and about 7 pull-ups, which is actually a fair amount. So at age 60, I hit 601 push-ups on the 6th day of a fast. How did that happen? Well, I've been on live foods for quite a few years. In fact, I became a plant source only or a vegan in 1973. You can think about that. I had a really interesting experience, which is kind of comical. My wife was pregnant with our second child, and Heather, who actually is a production stage manager on and off Broadway in different places, lives on the Lower East Side here in New York. And we both had this nightmare. What was the nightmare? That the fetus was a chicken and we were eating it. That's quite a nightmare. Well, we became vegan overnight. We had this joint nightmare, and we became vegan overnight. Now, that's not the usually way people go vegan. You have philosophical reasons, cruelty to animals, protecting the environment, but somehow it spoke. Since that time, then I evolved. I was also in India, and when the Kundalini was awakened in 1975, I got a message: you should learn to eat and live in a way that supports the spiritual energy called Kundalini. And so as I did the research, so from 1970, really 3, but 75 to about 83, then I came to the conclusion that the best diet for spiritual life was a live food, plant-based only diet, which turns out to be the ancient diet of Gan Eden, but also the diet that the rishis, who lived 2,000, 3,000 years ago, actually lived on in India. So that's how I got to live food. It wasn't because it made me strong, but I'm making the point is that most people think, oh, if you go plant-based, you're going to be weak, and but it's just the opposite. The research really shows you have 2 to 3 times more energy, you're stronger, many good things, which I'm going to discuss in a moment. So you actually do get more flexible, stronger, and clearer, and more endurance. That's actually what really does happen. Now you have to, there's a little catch to it. If you don't pay attention to, we are unique individuals, we have a unique constitution, and we have to eat according to that constitution. You don't always do as well. So, whereas I see 99% of the people being really successful is because I have them eat according to their constitution. We actually, on our chromosome 19, this is for real, it says how much protein, how much fat, how much carbohydrate you should eat. And we are unique, we are individual, and we have to figure that out. We have to figure it out for our own uniqueness. Okay, so kind of keep that in mind, because that's the key to being really, really successful. Because this is it's a very powerful diet, and you have to be able to understand yourself enough to select the right diet for yourself. So this is my wife and I kind of connecting. Here's a few of the books. And this is where it begins in Genesis 1:29. And God said, behold, I've given you every seed-bearing plant on the face of the earth and every tree that has a seed-bearing fruit. That's your food. That's not that complicated. He didn't say processed food. He didn't say lots of dairy. He didn't say junk food. He didn't say GMO food. It's just real simple. Okay? We make it complicated. Why? Well, people make money off the complications. So what's the history of live food? It actually goes back quite a ways. We, even before Gan Eden or connected, we have the Anukis, which are live food. I won't go into that whole explanation, but clearly what I just shared was a live food diet. And then after that, you had the Pelagasians. Anyone ever hear of the Pelagasians? Well, the Pelagasians lived in southern Greece. The average age was 200. This is all documented. Herodotus, the great historian, that's how I actually found out about it, talked about it. I actually went to Greece, tried to figure out where are these people, and they were 3,000 years ago, 100% live food diet, average age 200. They really did exist. Okay, that was interesting. And then we look at Egypt. And Akhenaten and Nefertiti were live fooders. They understand that. And if you kind of look around, you see, what do they have? Sunlight coming into the plants. And so the priesthood was not just plant-based only, but it really was live food. Because they understood that was the most powerful way to eat for your spiritual life. So what I'm telling you isn't exactly new information here. It's just that it got lost along the way. So after that, we had the Essenes emerging about 600 BC in Mount Carmel, and one of the people they trained was Pythagoras, the great Greek philosopher and enlightened teacher. And he came down from Mount Carmel enlightened, but also teaching live food. And from that time, anyone who was eating a plant-based diet was called a Pythagorean, interestingly enough. And that continued to 1944, when Watson in England changed it to the term vegan. So that's kind of how that progressed. But before that, 1920, 1980s, 1880s, and on, Dr. Bertrand Brenner in Switzerland began using live food to heal people because he read Pythagoras. And they began healing all kinds of things, and including cancer. And then one of their students was Dr. Max Gerson from Germany. In 1920, he cited the first live food healing of diabetes. And if people know, that's one of the things we've done is use live foods to heal diabetes. And we're healing, it's so-called not curable, but the truth is it's only not curable if you don't understand what you're doing. If you do drugs, do this and eat whatever you want, take insulin, you're not going to cure it. As I said yesterday, if you go in the wrong direction, this amazing thing happens. You end up in the wrong direction. But if you go to the live food, which again wasn't my idea, but Max Gerson, who did the first healing, so we heal 61% of people who are non-insulin dependent in 3 weeks. That's not exactly incurable. And people who are insulin dependent, 24% in 3 weeks are healed. Healed means no medication and a blood sugar less than 100, okay? And 86.6% are off all insulin and off all diabetic medications. That's quite a change from incurable. So that started with Max Gerson, that understanding. And then the next major live food person was Dr. Edmund Bodo-Sekeli. He taught a lot from 1940 to 1970. He was kind of activated the scene movement. And then we have Ann Wigmore, and then we have the kind of next level after her, Victor Kovinskis, and Brian Clement from Hippocrates, and myself are the next level of the live food, and then many people are teaching it after that. That gives you a little bit of the, in a sense, the lineage of this whole thing. Here's the bottom line. Thomas Edison. The chief function of the body is to carry the brain around. Think about that. That's where we started. If you don't have a brain that works, it's a problem. It's a really big problem. So live foods helps really that happen. And one step further, diet affects consciousness. Just think about that. It affects the mind. Okay? It affects how we think and ultimately our actions. So in Ayurvedic yogic teachings, we know there are 3 kinds of diets. There's what we call the sattvic diet, which is it's a diet basically ultimately like a live food diet. Initially they had dairy, but not anymore for a variety of reasons. And that helps you turn into yourself and create a quiet mind. Then you have our rajasic diet, which is very activating, and that's a more meat-eating diet. And then finally a tamasic diet, which is pretty much what Americans are on today. Junk food, drugs, and a variety of things, okay? That creates a mind of, I'm going to say sloth, and not clear, and kind of mean and cruel. These are tamasic qualities. Whereas sattvic qualities are quiet and calm and peaceful and loving. The diets affect your consciousness. So that's been known for thousands of years. This is not new information. It's just good to remind people that's what's going on. And now, food's a love note for God. I didn't really get that. I mean, I got it because I obviously wrote it down. But until I realized that when the Hebrews were in the desert and they didn't have any food for 3 days and they were pretty freaked out, God created the manna that precipitated on the ground. And it's like, okay, that is a love note from God. That's it. Everything we're getting on the living planet is a love note from God. And it's good to keep that in mind because it inspires us to take care of the ecology so we can allow the space for the love note to manifest and be read.